What's up, Fantasy A-Team Nation? I'm your host, Josh Jenkins, and tonight's video, we are going to unveil our Week 11 waiver wire picks. But before I start the show, I would like to apologize for the last 2 weeks. We had some technical difficulties with our internet, and I went out to KC and watched the Kansas City Chiefs game with my main man, Zach Roberts, aka my co-host. Big shout out to Brad Sampson. He hooked me up with some Tampa Bay signage there you see on the door. So I just wanted to throw that out, give him a big shout out. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Zach Roberts, back to the show. Welcome back, Zach.
Hey, what's up, 18 Fantasy Nation? What's up, Josh? Thanks for having me back, man. It was awesome to have you out here and go to the game. I know we didn't get to see Rodgers, but we got to see my boys win and get back to their winning capabilities. Man, it was really awesome to have you in town. Yeah, we do apologize, people, for the 2 weeks of technical difficulty, and then because we ain't reached the right numbers yet as far as whatever they want for YouTube, we couldn't go live at the game, so we couldn't shoot a video there, but we're quickly approaching those numbers. You guys keep sharing and subscribing and getting the word out. We'll be there in no time, so we'll be able to go live. So we do apologize, but we're ready to get to these lists and help you guys try to, we're getting to that time where it's heading into the playoffs. We want to help shore up your teams, get these waiver wire guys you can have plug in ready for the playoffs and help you guys win your leagues, man. So let's get to this waiver wire video. We're excited. We've missed you guys.
All right, first up, no particular order, I'm going to throw out Tuatunga Viola. He was 8 of 13 for $158. He's rostered in 33.4% of leagues, started in just 4.2. This week he faces the New York Jets, ranked 22nd against the quarterback.
Yeah, so, those numbers that he had last week, people, is because Brissett had started the game and got hurt, went out. And so his numbers were like half the game or less. So if you go back and look, pretty much every time he's on the field, he's kind of like Garoppolo. He just puts up solid numbers, has a good IQ. He isn't going to go put up a ton of numbers like 400-something yards and 5 touchdowns to win you the game or winning your league or whatever, but he's going to keep you solid in the hunt or whatever during your matchup, and one of your other guys can go off and help you win your matchup. I do like him. I think he has the potential to have a higher ceiling than what he's playing right now, especially with, he's got a lot of weapons there with Waddle, Gesicki, and Gaskins. So look for him to start heating up there. That offense is heating up. So another good pickup off the waiver wire going into the playoffs. So if you have anyone hurt on a bye week, so great pickup, man.
All right, next, I'm going to throw out Mac Jones. Last week, he had 19 of 24 for $198, 3 touchdowns. He's rostered 14.5% of leagues, starting at 4.1. This week, he faces the Atlanta Falcons, ranked 30th against the quarterback.
All right, so Mac Jones is turning into a stud. Kind of reminds me of Justin Herbert in his rookie year. Even though Herbert, finished probably maybe a little better than Mac Jones is going to. Mac Jones got a great IQ. Looks like him and Belichick has figured out what works for them with Hunter Henry, Jacoby Myers, and Aguilar. They started to heat up their offense. And then that rookie, they keep getting banged up at running back with that new rookie running back, whatever his name, Stevenson. He'll be on the list later. He's tearing it up too. So, that's a great offense to go ahead and grab him and be a part of. Looks like they're going to lead into the next part of the end of the season and have pretty productive fantasy points. Mac Jones is solid, like a Garoppolo. He's got a great IQ. He's going to, not try to throw very many interceptions. He's going to be solid with the ball and get the guys the ball. I would pick him up and stash him for my matchups for the playoffs, especially if you have a second big name quarterback. You might be able to trade and get some some other pieces that can help you win going into the playoffs and hopefully to the Super Bowl. So I think he's one of the best pickups of our quarterback waiver wires this week. Go get him, people.
All right. Next, I'm going to throw out Daniel Jones. Last week was week 10. He had a bye. He's rostered in 18.9% of leagues, started in just 1.7. This week he faces the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, ranked 19th against quarterback.
Yeah, it's a little bit tougher matchup. I mean, they're 19th, but Danny Dimes seems to always get about 225, 250 yards and a couple touchdowns as long as he doesn't get knocked out of the game. And he usually rushes for, like kind of like a Aaron Rodgers. He might get 4 or 5 rushes for 40 or 50 yards sometimes. So I think he's all, man, if you go back and look at our waiver wire videos, he's almost on here every week, man. He's available. I don't know why people aren't starting him. I know there's other better players that are available, but he's put up some pretty decent numbers. And going into these bye weeks and people being injured, he's a good option to pick up and have on your team. So looking forward to the playoffs and the rest of these bye weeks, man. He's a good option to pick up and stash and even play this week. So.
All right, next, we're going to have a fresh face on the show. Mr. Cam Newton has decided to make his appearance. Last week, he played briefly in the game. He was 3 of 4 for 8 yards and a touchdown. He's rostered 16.2% of leagues, started in 5.4. This week, he's supposed to be the starter. He will face the Washington Redskins, ranked 32nd against the quarterback.
So, yeah, I mean, that gives him the perfect matchup, the 32nd ranked defense. No one has any film on in this year in this offense, whatever he's going to do, because – and then they've got so many other threats there. So he's actually would be a pretty good pickup, people. I mean, I love the Mac Jones, like I had said, but he's right there neck and neck with him. I mean, you know how he's a dual threat. At any point, he could pull the ball down in the red zone and run it in or throw it. He's got a great arm. Looks like they, because he kind of has a little bit of history there before, so he kind of understands who to get the ball to. I think it's a great pickup. I mean, it's a question mark. He could have a bad game this next game or whatever, but it'd be a little bit of a gamble. He'd have a high ceiling with a low floor, but if you don't have any other option, man, some of these other guys we said aren't available, or you're willing to gamble for that high, he has a chance to win you your matchup this week if he goes off. So it would be a gamble, but if he's available in your league, man, go get him. If he turns out to be to go back to Studsville, like we know he can, then dude, it'd be great as a guy to have on your bench going into the playoffs, man, for matchups, man. You probably win the Super Bowl or something like that. So good pickup. I might go pick him up myself.
All right, next on the list, we got Mason Rudolph. Last week, he went 30 of 50, 242 yards, 1 touchdown. He's rostered in 0.3% of leagues, started in 0.1. This week, he faces the Los Angeles Chargers, ranked 6th against the quarterback.
So that's kind of a tough matchup, but man, listen, they throw the ball there and then they feed off, Najee Harris, and he showed he's got solid. I mean, he's no Big Ben in his prime, but those were solid numbers you just said. So if he can continue to produce a similar type of thing, you know how Tomlin is. If that worked last week, he's going to be like, all right, we're going to install new wrinkles so we can't be red, but we're going to continue on with this, type of offensive setup for him. He's excelling at it. And as a coach, that's what you do. If you put together a game plan and you go out and your guy excels, you're going to maybe put in some new wrinkles to make him excel more. But he's a solid pickup, people. Maybe not the best of all these guys, but if these other guys aren't available or you like the matchup, man, go pick him up and maybe play him or stash him.
All right, that's it for the quarterback portion of the waiver wire. We're going to jump right into the running backs. First on the list, I'm going to throw out would be Boston Scott. Last week, he had 12 rushes for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rostered 14.9% of leagues, started in 2.8. This week, he faces the New Orleans Saints, ranked 3rd against the running back.
So that's going to be tough, but the way they run the ball, because they split it and you got the quarterback that can run, that's, it's going to be, even though they're ranked, what'd you say, 3rd against the run, they're still going to have a tough time because this is no rushing team like any other. It's kind of like a Baltimore. It's not like any other rushing that they're used to ever seeing. So even after studying the film, it's going to be hard to predict. Is Hurts going to keep the ball? Is Scott going to get the ball? Is Howard going to come in and be a decoy? So I like, Scott as an option. It seems like they're starting to figure it out as far as for us fantasy people, that we can start to say Jordan Howard and Scott are both viable options, especially during the bye weeks when you're trying to find someone to plug in and not, lose because you didn't have anybody good. They're going to have solid numbers, maybe even could have big games and keep you, in your matchup, and hopefully someone can go off and win your matchup for this week. So I like both him and Jordan. Since you had mentioned Jordan Howard, I like both those guys for this week.
All right, next, we're going to throw out there Jordan Howard, as you already talked about.
Yeah.
He had 12 rushes for 83 yards. He's rostering 27.6% of leagues, started in 7.7, and he goes up against the New Orleans Saints.
And see, listen, man, just kind of echoes exactly what I said. He might even be the better of the two just because of how productive he was with the ball. So between the two, man, when you're playing defense, you get tired when these big guys keep running at you. If they keep switching them out, and these guys are producing, man, between them, what'd you say, 12 carries, and one was 12 and one was what?
They both had 12 carries last week.
Yeah, guys had 12 carries, and both of them were come as hard as you can. Those other guys aren't getting the rest like those running backs are. So, as you get into the end of the game, these guys are busting it off and running in for their end zone for the touchdown. So, like I had said, echo both of them. If one of them's taken, grab the other one, or vice versa. I would plug them in this week if you have a weak matchup or somebody's gone on bye week or injured. Either one of them, Scott or Howard.
All right, next, we're going to throw out Raimondray Stevenson. Last week, he had 20 rushes for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's rostering 31.9% of leagues, started in 26.7. This week, he faces the Atlanta Falcons, ranked 30th against the quarterback, or running back, excuse me.
What a great matchup because it's 30th. Belichick and the double tight end set with Mac Jones. He's gonna get the ball another freaking 18 to 20 something times, especially if they get a small lead and they want to eat the clock. We did talk about the Stevenson guy before the season even started, people. It's just that he was buried behind other draft picks and people that already knew the playbook better theirs. And now it looks like that getting into the middle part of the season and people have been banged up, he's got his shot and he understands the plays now or whatever. So he's producing. The kid's got a lot of skill. So if he's available in your league, man, running backs are really hard to come by, and this kid's a stud. Go pick him up.
All right. Next, A.J. Dillon. Last week, he had 21 rushes, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns, rostering 45% of leagues, started in 25.5%. He had 2 receptions for 62 yards. This week, he goes against the Minnesota Vikings, ranked 22nd against the running back.
And they're rivals. This is a rival game, too, Vikings and Green Bay. So, dude, anybody that's been watching these videos, we've been talking about A.J. Dillon because of how they've been utilizing the ball there. So anytime Jones was tired or banged up for, come out of the game, Dillon would fill in, and he's solid. I've been talking about how much his average per carry was higher than Jones. And then he also proved that, like you said, what was it? 2 catches for 60-something yards and a touchdown or whatever. So he's a bigger back. He's kind of like a Derrick Henry, guys. So, man, go pick him up. If you can get him, go get him, dude. If this week, if you could get Stevenson and him going into the bye or going into the, with the end of the byes into the playoffs, dude, looking at possible Super Bowl and Super Bowl win, man. So pick these guys up. I'm going to go get Dylan. I'll try to get Stevenson too if I can. I play in a couple leagues. So running backs are hard to come by. Go look at our running back videos. It's hard to get these good running backs, and they're starting to sprout out because people are getting injured and stuff, getting their opportunities, and they've already had enough time to understand the playbooks. So pick these guys up.
All right, guys, that concludes the running back portion of the waiver wire video. We're going to jump straight into the wide receivers. First name I'm going to throw out there to you is Corey Davis. Last week, he had 5 receptions, 93 yards. He didn't score a touchdown. He's rostered in 48.8% of leagues, started in 13.5. This week, they faced the Miami Dolphins, ranked 30th against the wide receiver.
So with that ranking against 30th, man, that's pretty good ranking already. And what was it? Who's the new quarterback? White, I think that's his name.
Yeah, White.
Yeah, so White and him seem to have a connection because before White was playing, Zach Wilson wasn't getting him the ball. You know what I mean? So this might be something that, because he's available, people, and they have a connection, try to go pick him up, man, stash him or play him, either one, because this is a good matchup this week for him too. He could go off this week. So another same thing, going into the playoffs, have the end of your bye weeks. If he's available, he's a stud. He just hadn't had a chance. He showed now that he had his chance. These are those diamonds in the rough, people. Go get them. That's what we do these waiver wire videos for. These are what win you your leagues.
Well, I just found out that White will not be the quarterback this week. It's going to be Joe Flacco. So,
well, let's hope Flacco has the same chemistry then. But what I said goes for whenever any of those situations happen, man. I'm telling you, that's good advice. So I didn't know that. I didn't know Flacco was going to play.
All right. Next, Jacoby Myers. Last week, 4 receptions, 49 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 red zone target. He's rostered 33.2% of leagues, started in 20.9. This week, he faces the Atlanta Falcons, ranked 25th against the wide receiver.
So that's a pretty good matchup. And I think, again, kind of like when we're talking about Belichick, he's starting to figure out how to utilize Myers. And he's an athlete. He's got a lot of athleticism. So then we're trying to get him in space or get him the ball to where he can get out and away from people. So look for him to get more targets. He has a high ceiling. He may not get you a ton of points, but he has a chance to go off. That offense is heating up. Him and Mac Jones's chemistry is heating up. So he could be somebody you can just pick up and stash. Or this week, what would you say the matchup was against the wide receiver there? What?
Atlanta Falcons ranked 25th.
25th. See, and the Falcons always give up a bunch of yards passing wise. So I'd say, that's a great matchup if you don't have as good a matchup, man. Play this match, pick him up and play him. He's an athlete. He could go off, man. And I can't remember. Does he do kick returns or punt returns?
I'm not for sure.
Remember, but every now and then you get those guys that are young like that are athletes that they go ahead and send them back from time to time. That's what happened with Tyreek Hill. That's how we found out how Tyreek Hill was so electric, man. So anyways, who we got next?
Next, Brian Edwards from the Las Vegas Raiders. Last week he had 3 receptions, 88 yards, 1 touchdown. He's rostered in 2.6% of leagues, started in 0.3. All right, this week they faced the Cincinnati Bengals, ranked 22nd against the wide receiver.
Okay, so what happened there is he's taking over Ruggs' spot, everybody. So for anybody that had Ruggs or liked the production that came out of Ruggs, because Carr could throw the ball, and they like to throw the ball there in L.A. Or not L.A., but Las Vegas. So he would be a great pickup. He's kind of like a diamond in the rough right now. I mean, I'm not saying I haven't seen enough film on him to say that he's going to become, a super athlete. But what'd you say it was? A couple receptions and 88 yards?
3 receptions for 88.
I mean, dude, those are pretty dang good numbers. So it's only going to go up from there, especially if now that they see that what he can do, they're going to try to get the ball and get it to him in space, athletes. So it's kind of like what we do with Hill. So I think that's another great pickup, diamond in the rough. You could play him if you wanted to this week, but also hold him because, man, the playoffs are coming and you still got a few bye weeks coming. You're going to have wide receivers that are going to be on bye week. So,
all right. Next, Kendrick Bourne from the Patriots. Last week, he had 4 receptions, 98 yards, and a touchdown. Had 1 red zone target. He's rostered 1.7% of leagues, started in 1%. This week, they faced the Atlanta Falcons, ranked 25th against a wide receiver.
And again, there's going to be a lot of yards given up probably by the Falcons. And, I mean, not every one of these guys we've said for New England can produce freaking huge numbers, but somebody is. And this guy right here, Bourne, he's fast. He's an athlete. I can't believe they let him go in San Francisco. So looks like, again, he's been there long enough that Belichick's starting to figuring out how to utilize him. And we all know what Belichick can do with athletes. I mean, go back and look at all the names that, we could name off, but all these guys that he gets, man, once he figures out how to utilize them in his offense, they usually become pretty productive. And so he was productive last week. I'd go ahead and try to pick him up and roster, get him on your roster again for the upcoming bye weeks and going into the playoffs. So another great pickup if you can get him.
All right, next, Rashad Bankman. Last week, he had 6 receptions for 80 yards, 0 touchdowns, but he did have 1 red zone target. He's rostered 10.7% of leagues, started in 9.8. This week, he faces the Chicago Bears, ranked 28th against the wide receiver.
All right, this kid's a super stud. He was taken in the first round, guys. He was up there with Waddle and what's the guy, Devontae Smith. He's really good, guys. So now that he's available and they're throwing the ball to him, man, this is a super diamond in the rough. He could easily go way off, like at the end of this, towards the end of the season. And if you could pick him up and have him on your bench and play him through the end of the season and into your playoffs, man, this could help you get to the Super Bowl. So another huge diamond in the rough, people. And this is a huge waiver wire video for you guys, man. A lot of diamonds in the rough, a lot of guys to be had. And I know by now you've got guys that are underperforming. So these are the guys you should be picking up.
All right, guys, that's it for the wide receivers. And we're going to jump right into the tight ends. First on the list, I'm going to throw out there is Hunter Henry. Last week, he had 4 receptions for 37 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 red zone targets. He is rostered in 66.6% of leagues, started in 32.5. He faces the Atlanta Falcons, ranked 15th against the tight end.
Well, it sounds like at least a few of you guys have been listening to our videos on the tight ends because we've been talking about Hunter Henry probably from first week on. He's just another. It goes back to that Belichick. He loves that double tight end set. Hunter Henry is a super athletic tight end. Now he's again same thing. He's gotten used to Belichick's offense, and they put wrinkles in to utilize how to put him in, to get him the ball in the best position, to win. That's what you're coaching. That's what every coach's job is, to put you in a position on the field to win versus your opponent, who your matchup is. And they're doing that right now with Hunter Henry. And Mac Jones is loving throwing to him. So another great pickup if you can get him, dude, especially if you have a weak tight end or someone who's on bye or hurt going into the playoffs and finishing off the bye weeks, man. This is a great pickup.
All right, next on the list, I'm going to throw out there is Tyler Conklin from the Vikings. Last week, he had 3 receptions for 11 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 red zone targets. He's rostered in 18.7% of leagues, started in just 8%. This week they faced the Green Bay Packers, 21st against the tight end.
So yeah, man, it looks like Cousins and him, like they're in the red zone. They have such a red zone, like they're connected, man. You know what I mean? Like they're bang. So looks like if you have a weak tight end or can't get some of these other guys, he's gonna score touchdowns, and they're throwing them the ball in the end, in the end zone. And from there, a guy like that ends up also becoming a third down guy, because he can be relied upon. So all I do is look for his numbers to continue to go up. And it looks like the Vikings, I know they had a bad game 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, but and they'd play well before that. So I look for them to just continue on. And he's a new good wrinkle for fantasy football guys that you could pick him up and play him if you needed to for a tight end. Tight ends are hard to come by.
All right, next name I'm going to throw out there to you is Pat Fareemuth. Last week, he had 3 receptions, 31 yards. He didn't score a touchdown. He had 3 red zone targets. He's rostered 28.6% of leagues, started in just 22.8. This week, they faced the LA Chargers, ranked 28th versus the tight end.
So that's a great matchup at 28th. And they've compared this guy to Heath Miller. That's what they were saying that when I was watching the game, that they think that he's like another version of Heath Miller. I know his numbers weren't great this last week, but the week before that, he had a big game. And so now I think that they're going to have some chemistry. Tomlin's going to put in some wrinkles for him. He's going to get the ball more, especially in the end zone or red zone area. So this is a diamond in the rough, man. If you have weak tight end, man, or somebody's always getting hurt, somebody like that, like Cook or somebody, pick this guy up because he's going to heat up even more than he has. And we're going into the playoffs. I mean, I'm just echoing what I keep saying in and out of the bye weeks. This guy could end up being the guy that helps you get to the playoffs and win the Super Bowl. So pick this diamond in the rough up now.
All right, next I'm going to throw out Dan Arnold. Last week, 5 receptions, 67 yards. He didn't score a touchdown. 1 red zone target. Rostered in 10.5% of leagues, started in 6.8. This week, he faces the San Francisco 49ers, ranked 9th against the tight end.
Well, that's a tough matchup on 9th, but man, I'm shaking my head over here because we've talked about Dan Arnold from the beginning. I know he got banged up there a few weeks ago or a few weeks into the season, so he's out for a week or two, but we've been talking about him on the waiver wire videos. If you guys go back, he's just a solid guy. I mean, I don't even know who to compare him to, kind of like a Tyler Eifert or whatever back in the day, or he's kind of an athlete. He's solid. He always catches the ball. We've been talking about him since the beginning. I mean, they utilize him there. It was just for some reason Darnold was having trouble getting him the ball, and then he'd gotten injured, so he kind of fell off of the fantasy, alert or whatever. But now that he's healthy and back, and Cam threw the ball to him, what'd you say, 6 times last week?
Dan is in Jacksonville.
Oh, Jacksonville. I'm so sorry. Well, anyways, we've been talking about this guy for weeks, dude. And whoever it was throwing the ball last week, looks like Lawrence and him finally figured it out. But I've always liked this Dan Arnold guy since the very beginning. We've talked about him, and it's one of these tight end videos, man. You guys don't watch them enough. These, it seems like you lose by 10 points at the end of the week. You look at your tight end, he put up 2 points. You go back and look at our waiver wire videos that not very many people's watched, and we have guys on there that put up 15, 20 points, and you're like, dang, I could have picked him up. He was available. So sorry about getting the wrong team there, but still the same thing, man. Dan Arnold's a stud. They like to throw to him, and he's healthy. So.
All right, this next one, he's got a pretty tough matchup, but if you need a tight end, if you're in a squeeze, it's better than nothing. Gerald Everett, for the Seahawks. Last week, 8 receptions, 63 yards, rostered in 21.9% of leagues, started in just 0.7. This week, he faces the Arizona Cardinals, ranked number 1 against the tight end.
Dang, that, like, you're right. That's a tough matchup. But the Cardinals also are Murray's out again, I think, right? So there's opportunity for more options for the defense to be on the field longer. So they're going to be more tired. With that said, he's going to get more opportunities to get the ball. And I don't know. What would you say his numbers were last week?
His numbers were, let me see here, 8
Sorry, guys.
receptions for 63 yards.
Like, he was the only bright spot, really. Like, they shut DK Metcalf down like last week. And I've been saying on other of our tight end videos that Gerald Everett, man, he's kind of an athlete. He kind of reminds me of a Cook or I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head, but he's a half athlete, maybe even like a poor man's Antonio Gates, kind of like. And so if they'll get him the ball, he can put up especially some yards after catch. So maybe after that, Pete Carroll's, they're not going to have the same repeat. They're not going to put up a goose egg this week. So with him available, and he was a bright spot last week, they're going to want to build off of that. So might get him, play him this week, or even stash him going into the bye weeks, and then into the playoffs.
Guys, that concludes week 11 waiver wire picks. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, hit that subscribe button. And remember, friends don't let friends auto draft.